As you know, yesterday I tabled a discussion paper titled Temporary Special Measures to Increase the Representation of Women in the NWT Legislative Assembly. This paper follows on the heels of motion that Ms. Green and Minister Cochran introduced in the Legislative Assembly in March to set an ambitious target for the representation of women in our Assembly. This issue is also identified as one of the priorities adopted by the 18th Assembly at the start of this term. The discussion paper is intended to start a serious dialogue in the NWT about the role of women in our institution of public government. In the absence of political parties, we have limited means to influence the number of women who seek public office. The work of Minister Cochran to sponsor a campaign school for women is a good start. The research has shown that the best predictor of how many women are elected is the number of women who let their names stand. Temporary special measures are not only a way to overcome our persistent low levels of women representatives, but they have added benefits of encouraging more women to seek office. If they work properly, they should render themselves unnecessarily in shorter order. None of us are married to the solutions laid out in a discussion paper, but we are committed to finding made in the North solutions to this challenge that we're faced with. That concludes my opening comments, and I'd like now to invite Minister Cochran and also MLA Julie Green to provide some opening comments. Must-see, and thanks for being here with us again. I'll turn over to Minister Cochran and then followed by Ms. Green.
Thank you, everyone, for being here at lunch. Just really it's time. The paper that was tabled by Jackson Lafferty is actually very important. And I want to give credit that it was actually a man that actually tabled this. So having women in leadership is not only a women's issue, it is a societal issue, and we need men to step forward. So it's really important that we give credit to the Speaker for actually taking this step. We're facing a lot of barriers. It's important that women be in leadership. We don't want to take over. We want just equal representation. If we represent half of the Northwest Territories, then we should have equal voice within the Legislative Assembly. Women it's not that we think better, we think differently. And what I'm seeing here is that men think a lot about work, jobs, etc. And that's socialization. They've always been, for many, many years, men have been said to go out and earn the money and women stay home and cook. Well, like I always say, I'm one of the worst cooks I know. So it's time to change that societal perception. We need women at the table, because we talk about women, we think about things like childcare, about poverty, those kind of issues that men also think about, but it might not be their main focus. So we need to, if we're going to be very inclusive and talk about serious issues, then we need to have equal voices at the table. So I want to commend the Speaker again for his work on this. It's a wonderful step. It's really empowering to actually see men come forward. We cannot, as women, do this alone. We need men as well to help us with this. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to reiterate the Minister's thanks to the Speaker for leading the charge on this issue. The allies we need are the men in this Legislative Assembly and the men of the Northwest Territories. They need to be part of the solution in promoting solutions to women's underrepresentation. I think we have a full understanding of what the problem is. There just aren't enough women. We have an understanding of our end goal. Those are the targets that were in the motion that we all 19 of us endorsed in the March session, the February-March session. So now we're turning to the question of how do we get there? And Samoa has modeled this possibility of temporary special measures, temporary meaning they are only for the life of the Assembly, and also that they are responsive to the number of women who are elected. They may not be needed at all. So this is an idea that has worked well there. I think it's an idea that's worth looking at here. And really the main purpose is to start the discussion about how we reach the targets. And so temporary special measures is one promising idea, but it's not the only idea. So what we really want here is to start the debate and discussion. If not temporary special measures, then how? We need to get to this end goal of improving the representation of women in the Northwest Territories. Thank you.
Masi.
Thank you, Ms. Green. We will now open the floor to any questions.
Jamie Melba, CBC News. What made you, as a man, decide that you wanted to be the one to table this document? What prompted that?
I believe it's time for a change. Since the Nunavut division, we've had upwards of 3 females in representation in our Legislative Assembly since 1999. And I feel that there's a need for increasing that number. And based on that, there's been a lot of women in the past have ran as well. And there's been a campaign school, which was very effectively ran in the Northwest Territories and will continue to do so. But it's just having a women representation. I'm a firm believer in that, where I have to think about future young generation. And I have 3 daughters, and I'm sure they're going to have kids as well. And I think about them. I think about other community members that have female children that are educated. And we need to identify those individuals that can be part of our political system as well. And this is an area that we are seriously looking at. We want to get feedback from the general public. So we're going to have a caucus, summer caucus in Wati, so we can discuss it further on this temporary measures, and then where we can go from there. So there's 3 options that we're looking at. Somalia from South Pacific Ocean, that we're looking at as a guaranteed 5 seats for female. That's just one option. Another option is 20%, and then 30% that the motion is alluded to in March. So I feel that this is doable. It's just, it's never been done across Canada. This is the first of its kind. Carrying the Somalia experience from other parts of the world have worked well for them since 2013 election. And now it's here. We want to start working towards that 2023, 2027. Masi.
Mr. Black, News North. Ms. Green, how do you think the governorship of the territory would change if more women were in the ledge?
As the minister said, I think that women are interested in the same issues as men, but also in issues that have a unique impact on women. And those issues don't get a lot of profile right now. If you look at the kinds of things that I talk about, and you look at the kinds of things my male colleagues talk about, you'll see there's some overlap, but there are also things that they don't talk about. And so what we need is a critical mass of women to talk about issues that affect the other half of the population, and more representation is the way to do that.
Megan Richins, I'm from the Music Van. Why now? Why not last year or the year before that to table something like this?
Well, we're here today, and again, it's time for a change. And a lot of people talked about it over the years, trying to increase female representation in the Legislative Assembly. Again, since 1999, upwards of 3. And this is an area that needs a lot of interest from the whole Northwest Territories. It would have a ripple effects. The Legislative Assembly goes forward with this. If the decision's made, then it would have ripple effects across the Northwest Territories, whether it be the chiefs, the grand chiefs, mayors, and other positions, high-profile positions. We need to have equality in representation. So I am a firm believer that individuals step up to the plate, has the credentials to carry on the role in a leadership role. That's what I look at. So I feel that it is time to step forward, time to make some changes, and to hear from general public how they perceive this, what's their perspective, and we're seeking out input from them. And next 2 months in August, we will be sharing that with our fellow colleagues, MLAs, and then we'll decide on the next step. We could establish a committee, a working committee to establish an ongoing dialogue with the general public at large as well. And then the paper obviously will be delivered down the road. Obviously, it won't be happening at 19th Assembly, but we're working towards the 2023 and 2027 target date. So those are just some of the initiatives that we'll be discussing further with our colleagues. Masi.
Questions? Yeah, for Minister Cochrane. I was speaking to Julie about this yesterday, and I was just wondering, in your experience, what are some of the reasons women are, trying to get these seats a little bit more?
I think Julie and I would probably be on the same idea with that. There's a variety of reasons. There's financial. It does cost a lot for campaigning. That is sometimes a barrier for women. Childcare, huge barrier for women. Obligations to family, feeling like I have to stay in my community because I need to take care of my elders, my youth, my aunties, my uncles, etc. There's also something about societal expectations on women within the Northwest Territories. Some cultures are still very traditional, which is good. We want to keep traditions. However, within that, they've constrained women in saying that women should not, especially Indigenous women, should not be in politics, period. So we need to challenge that and to just, so doing the campaign schools, which MLA Green and I have both been doing together, is one area, but we're still going to hit that barrier because women have so many challenges to step forward. But if we have these designated seats for women, my hope is that we'll actually have more women in the communities willing to run because they'll say, well, even if my chiefs, if my governments, my community say it's not appropriate for women to be there, there's a guaranteed seat. I have a chance. So it might actually push the women that just give that little bit of extra push that they need to take the chance. And I do believe, there's lots of research that shows that the more women that run, the more likelihood that we will have more women be successful in their campaigns. So.
Any other questions?
Mr. Cochrane, can we talk about Samoa and how that place came up as an example, something that territorial government might want to emulate?
Right, so I'll actually defer that to the speaker because it was his paper and his research project, so if you're all right with that.
Masi, for the question. Samoa experience obviously came from a Canadian Parliamentarian Association meeting, CPA, international. And so there was a lot of discussion about female representation across the world. We, as Northwest Territories, were way below other jurisdictions. That's why we were asking questions. I was asking questions to the Speaker of Samoa and other countries as well. And Samoa came back and introduced their experience and 5 guaranteed positions for female. So 2013, they had an election and 4 female came in. So they would only create 1 additional position. So that have 5 female representation guaranteed. So they continue to use that model. And it's working really effectively for them and working well for them as well. So that's an area that's one of the options that we want to consider as going forward, along with there's 20% and there's also 30% that we want to get a general feedback from, and also our colleagues across the Northwest Territories. Which one would benefit us most as the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly to move forward? And we have to keep in mind that there will be 2 terms down the road, but now's the time for a change. Let's put that into action, and let's seek out some general discussion on this particular important matter. Merci.